presentation of schematic design. So design process starts with information. Information we get through the program analysis and the site analysis and meetings with clients and meetings with the specialists. And it can be a teamwork. You can have a sociologist, anthropologist, political science, accounting. You can have many people in a team to collect information from different sources, and with this information is the base to create ideas. Ideas, as we said in the previous slide, they can happen at many levels. The levels can be very high, philosophical, theoretical, and can be very technical and very detailed, of materials, of structural systems, of sustainability requirements, and so forth. So we keep going through what we call action and reflection. We do some action and then review with our client or our boss or our supervisor, and through a team review. That's why criticism is important. The jury is important. The review committees are important because they give you reflections and feedback. So you keep working and sketching and display your ideas and get feedback. This feedback can be coming from many different sources. A single client or a committee or a board members or whoever. So you have to be very open to receiving criticism. Don't be defensive. Try to explain your idea as much as you can, but never be attacking or assuming that any comment or any criticism is necessarily negative. No, criticism is both negative and positive. It highlights the positive things and it highlights the negative things according to each person. So also important is that you have a base knowledge in your memory from history courses, from technical courses, from readings, from general information. The architect must have general knowledge of different fields: art, literature, economy, politics, sociology, anthropology. So reading and learning will provide you with the ingredients that are stored in your mind to come up again when you need them during the creative stage. So the designer's mind searches in memory to find elements that meet the needs of the given problem. We are not looking only for solutions, we are looking for creative concepts of projects. So while we are working on the conceptual stage, it's like a puzzle. We never know what the building will look like or the idea will look like at the end. It's a pieces of puzzle that we try to put together and try to find what brings them all together in a meaningful way. How do they fit together? What are the missing pieces? Do we have missing information about the site? We have missing information about the program. We have missing information about the client. If there are missing pieces, you will never get the full picture as you like to have at the end. As I said, we go through different stages of design, and during the stage of the synthesis, this is where ideas are formulated. So the first thing is that we collect information about the site, the program, the data, examples, and then we go to analysis stage where we analyze this information and find out what will impact the project most and identify what are the objectives that we want to achieve. And then the synthesis stage, where all this information come together in the form of the concept. And in order to make it easier for you, don't think that there is only one correct concept. No, there are many concepts and they can all be correct. They can all be good. So free yourself from finding only one concept. Usually at this stage in any office, people look for different alternatives. So think about alternatives, 3 alternatives minimum, 4, 5 possible, and give each one equal opportunity to be the successful one. And present these alternatives to clients and choose one of them together. So thinking about alternatives is a key of success to achieving the concept that you want. Then you review these alternatives, the evaluation stage, and select one to proceed with. This is the process that happens in any architectural office. They look for alternatives and they present these alternatives to clients, and then they reach one together that maybe combines 2 or 3 in one. Uh, and then they go into the design details, working drawings and stuff like that, and communication media, renderings and walkthrough, movies, virtual reality, and all this other stuff. But the key element in our work is synthesis. If we take the first letters of each of these stages, we'll find that they create the word based. So we can think about this as a based design process. BASED, briefing, analysis, synthesis, evaluation, and design. So the based design method that we talk about starts with a briefing of collecting information about everything, and analysis, synthesis, evaluation. As we said before, we analyze the program, the site, the goals, the alternatives, and then we go to the synthesis stage, where we develop solutions and concept, form, and space, and provide that in a preliminary or schematic design. You can use models, of course, to illustrate your ideas. You can use some renderings and so forth. And evaluation of these concepts to achieve the design. So analysis, synthesis, evaluation. If successful, you go to design. If not successful and none of the alternatives satisfies the client and the users and the needs, then you go back to the analysis stage. What is missing? What we need to do more, and how to improve our base knowledge so that the synthesis is better and complete. So it's not a one-shot process. It's as we said, action and reflection, until we reach a satisfying concept. Then we proceed to the design stage. Concepts can come from different sources, unlimited. They can come from ideas of balance. If you are designing a courthouse, for example, or a governmental building or something. So the ideas of balance are represented in symmetry, nature, tools, ratios, level, justice, can be a source of ideas for your concept. If you want to illustrate grace, maybe you look for how the dancing happens, flight, skills, fluidity, focus, effort. If you are looking for complexity, so you can look at integrated circuits of a computer chip. You can look at politics, ecosystems, planetary movements, fractals, music. If you are trying to illustrate knowledge through learning, experience, crafts, skills, communication, memory, mastery. So ideas can come from unlimited sources. And they must be related to your client interests, your site, your ambitions, dreams that you are translating for the client. So the ideas can be intangible, can be something that is very conceptual, very highly conceptual, as you said, ideas, human conditions. They can be tangible, coming from a certain object or and they can be combined and coming from different sources. Can you hear me?
Yes, doctor.
I lost you
Yes.
for a second, but you're back now.
Buffered, but it's working.
Yes, yes. There was a phone call, so it interrupted the speech. So as we said, the ideas can be coming from a very intangible level, and they can be coming from very tangible, like imitating a certain shape or form or whatever, and can be coming from or combination between the two. So you have to open your mind to everything. Try to find ideas from many sources as you can, and sketching. The success of concept creation is sketching. If you have good sketching skills, this is very valuable at this stage, to keep sketching of your ideas. Most successful projects were coming from sketches. Also, having a mood board is important. Collect some pictures, images, materials, so that you can provide this as inspiration for your client. As we discussed yesterday, the site can be the main source of your concept, depending on the topography, climatic condition, geography, demographic conditions, geology, and many elements that can be the main source of the concept. So your investment of time in the site analysis and site survey and information collection is very critical. Your idea might come only from the site, to relate it to a certain cultural background or buildings around you or whatever. So you have to weight each determinant and see what is the strongest. Is it the site? Is it the program? Is it a philosophical idea? Is it an intention? Is it the artist work, him or herself? So there are many sources. So the site itself, the site conditions, the topography can be a very important determinant in creating the concept. How do you respond to the site conditions, the contour lines? Are you going to build on the slope, in the slope, inside the slope, or over the slope? Do you have vegetation around? How are you going to deal with that? So the site itself and its conditions can be the main source of the main concept generation. So your integration with the site If you have excellent views around, maybe you need to have your project open to the nature around you and integrated with the topographic conditions. So the influences on the design can come from different sources. And you have to treat each project separately. If every project situation is different, has different requirements, different limitations based on the client, the budget, the program, the cultural, environmental, technological, aesthetic context. Every project must be treated individually, not copied or from other projects. So you have different challenges and opportunities. The program can be a very important influence on the design. What are the requirements, the limitations, the areas? Do you need the long span structures? Do you need high-rise structures? They can provide you with solutions directly from the program requirement. If there is a strong community around the project with specific requirements, you need to have meetings with the community itself. Community leaders, focus groups can provide you with important information and activities. Codes and regulations are, of course, major influence, have major influence on the design. What is the allowed area for construction? How many floors? Setbacks? FAR, how many square meters can I build on this site? Parking requirements. All these will also be will have major influence on the design. Where is the building located? You need to understand what is the existing fabric around the building. What kind of buildings? Traditional, modern. How do you relate to them? Are you going to integrate with them so you do something similar, or make something different? And why? You always have to think about why do you want to do this? So this will have influence on your selection of materials, fenestration, color, details, and so forth. So you have to understand the context. As I said, site and climate have important consideration. The site has its physical characteristics, and the climate, wind direction, solar orientation, temperature, humidity, precipitation, and how do you deal with these climatic conditions? Do you have snow? Do you have rain? Do you have sand? The second item are the environmental factors. What are the views around you? Which direction? Do you have existing buildings or existing vegetations? How do you reach the site? What is the access to the site? Adjacent land uses. Many items coming from the site. Building technology is also a critical factor, because now buildings are not only walls, floors, and ceilings. They are like small machines. We have air conditioning, we have lighting, we have internet, we have different systems that are impacting our building design from the beginning. And these are identified usually in the beginning of the project, in the briefing stage. The client might tell you about specific requirements. If you are designing a factory or a hospital or an airport, you have to consider all these building systems from the beginning of the project. Dimensions might be affected by the mechanical systems used, the construction systems required. Maybe the client wants to use prefabrication. Maybe the client wants to use standardized elements so that they reduce the cost. So you have to be careful about this. طبعا the issues of sustainability, as we say, the 3 E's, environment, economy, and equity, are becoming major elements in the design now. And currently we can also add to it health, because health is becoming a major concern in any design, and that will impact the design industry in the future a lot. So you have to think about all these aspects of sustainability, and maybe the client will ask you to design the building from the beginning to achieve a certain sustainability grade, like platinum, gold, silver, or stars, or whatever. So you have to consider that from the beginning. Cost. طبعا in university, you don't think much about the cost. It's taken for granted, and you don't have to worry. But when you go to professional practice, you will find that cost comes sometimes the first item in the project. We have limited budget. Please reduce the cost. Don't make it cost too much. You will hear that a lot from your clients. So cost considerations are very important. You have to understand, does the client have a fixed budget or flexible, not open? No one has open budget. It's either fixed or flexible. So you can go up and down a little bit in the budget. Again, we want to stress that what you do in the beginning of the project impacts the cost a lot. You can optimize the cost of the project in the beginning, during the programming and the design stage, more than at the end in the construction stage. So make sure that you spend enough time here, and the client should understand that the time spent at this stage is to optimize, not reduce. Don't use the word reduce. Use the word optimize the cost. There is always a cost. And we don't want to associate cost reduction with quality reduction. No, we want to optimize. We want to use the sources and the cost in a meaningful way so that we achieve the best results. Schedule. Sometimes you have a client who wants to build a school. So they want to start in a certain date. So that they furnish the school, so they start with the academic year. So you need to understand from the beginning, how will the schedule affect your design? When to start what to do when, and so forth. The client is always a major influence of the design. In professional practice, you always have to be communicating with the client. Don't disappear for 2 or 3 months and then I come up with a good idea. It doesn't work. You have to be continuously meeting with the client during the design stage. Review your ideas. Make sure that you are on the right direction. Make sure that they understand the consequences of any design decision in terms of cost, in terms of time, in terms of complexity, and so forth. there is no good client. Some clients might come to you with a program and budget and all the objectives of the project, and they want to just design. Others, they have no idea what to do. They might have budget, but they don't know what to do with it. So you need to find site and program for them and objectives. So there are different types of clients, and you have to meet the client several times in the beginning to understand what is the nature of this client and how can you work together to achieve the best results. Okay, now we go to the concept generation. We knew what are the influences. Where do we get concepts from? Concepts can come from the site, the conditions of the site, the location of the project. How do we relate to the natural elements, to the views, to the uh, architecture that is already there. طبعا there are many well-known sources of concepts from nature, from beehives, from seashells, from the sand dunes, from waves. All these are kinds of sources that are coming from nature. They can also be cultural. If you are designing in a historical site or traditional site, you have to consider all these elements. Religious factors. If it's a religious building and has some significance, you need to think about the religious factors, the social factors, people who will be living in that area. Economic factors. What is the economic standard for the project? Is it a shopping center, high class or middle or low? How do you design for each one of them? Political factors. What kind of political statements are you needs to be illustrated in the project? Functional factors. You might have different functions. They have complex relationships, and you need to think about them. Spatial relationships are also might be a source of the concept. What kind of spaces do you have? How do you relate to each other? How do you connect them together? Same level, or use different staircases and different elevations, different heights. Do you have the same height for all elements? Are they all 3 or 4 meters, or do you have areas that require 6 or 12 meters? So how do you bring them together? We have different types of spaces. There is the pragmatic space, the physical space. There is the perceptual space. How will people perceive the space and walk through the different spaces? Existential space, cognitive space, abstract space. So all these are different ideas coming from the spatial arrangement. طبعا the space has qualities related to its proportion, width, length, and height, scale, big or small, form, definition of the space, the color, the texture. All these elements, they affect the quality of the space. The visual design factors. How do you put these spaces together? What is the sequence of the spaces? How do you provide continuity and fluidity between the spaces? Are they symmetrical, asymmetrical? Their proportion, are they all the same proportion or have different proportions? Pattern, texture, color of spaces, hierarchy, transparency, direction, motion, time, sensory qualities. All these are elements that affect the design. We can also think about our visual perception. How do we perceive spaces? We have different theories of how do we perceive spaces in the city, in the building, and in one room. There are the famous Kevin Lynch theory of the image of the city and theory of place, where he identified certain elements that allow us to understand or to perceive the spaces that we live in. You can also rely on the visual design factors like the Gestalt psychology, where you depend on how the mind reads spaces and reads text and reads drawings and paintings. So your mind is already equipped with background experiences, and they impact how you see things around you. We might see the same thing in different ways, like the picture on the top right here. When you look at it, you see different images at the same time. You see a lady and a man standing in front of each other, or you see the old man face. So there are different ways of understanding things. Gestalt psychology or theory is very important for architects to understand how drawings impact how we see the world. The emojis that we use nowadays are also part of this. These elements, when they are arranged together, they can create a meaningful symbol. Visual organizations, we all know the figure, ground, surface, edge, outline, object, things that relate the objects to themselves and to each other. We have architectural compositions. We can start from very pragmatic principles of architecture and start to manipulate the form to achieve what we want. We have linear shapes, circles, rings, squares, stars, hexagonal. All these are architectural principles that we can base our design on. The size, some in the postmodern architecture era, we used to use the size and the scale as one of the elements of design. By changing the size that we are used to something different, it creates a different experience. Color is extremely important. If you're working with an artist, a painter, the issue of color is important. How do you integrate it in their design? So you have to go back to your profile of the artist that you thought about or selected, and get inspiration from what they do in your concept and design. We can have age as a concept generator. Are you using traditional or modern or combination between the traditional and the modern, or contrasting the modern and the traditional? So this also can be a source of inspiration. Construction system can be a major element. You might depend on the construction system and focus on how is it used. If using panel form, lift slab, flying shutters, how does this construction system affect your design? Structural systems. Also, if you're using a special type of structural system, it will have major impact on the concept. So we have to look at everything that might impact our design. You maybe want to have some Arabic Islamic design inspirations from the courtyard, the alleyway, الساحة, القصبة, المشربية, all these elements that are coming from our Arabic and Islamic traditions. Right, we will stop here because of the timing, and then we will start again. And after 5 minutes, inshallah. Okay, are you all there?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
5 minutes break, and we'll start at 11:30, inshallah.
Okay.